All right, welcome back to the Stormworks Basics career playthrough. Um, so in this video, we're going to go back, and so what I started doing here was, if you notice, I named this Stormworks Basics video 2. What I'm going to do is I'll release in the workshop each of these iterations throughout the videos, and I'll link them on the videos so that if you want to follow along and build yours with it, or if you want to start at a particular video and just take the hull or whatever you want to do, you can use this. I'm building this for the community. So let's go ahead and click on that. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to work on the idle. So let me show you what I mean. So the idle is currently screaming at me. If I start it, you'll listen. The idle just runs away. So we don't want that. We want it to be sitting at, and you notice it's at 44 RPS. All right, so we certainly don't want that. That's gross. We want it to be sitting at a nice 3.5, maybe lower 3 RPS. All right, so let's go in here and let's start working on this. I'll also show, let me, trying to think, should I build this or not? I'll take it off another build later. So we have two ways we can control this. The current way I have it is if I use the 1 button, we increase throttle. If I use the 2, we decrease throttle. 3 is idle. We could also do it where with WS, but we'll get into that later. We'll add that, and if somebody wants to use that system, if they prefer that, they can. Let's see what we want to do here. All right, so this clamp here, let's start working on this idle. So let's set this clamp. Let me set it down to 0.05. That will let us have less throttle at the start. I'm trying to decide if I want. I'll leave that for now. I might have to change that. Let's change this p-value down. I think 0.18. Let's try that. Let's actually do this instead. Let's do PID, advanced PID. Put that there. Now it sounds daunting, advanced PID. It really is simple. We're just going to put the set point to the set point, put the process variable to the process variable. The on button here is still going to go to the on button. Let's take the output there and let's delete out this one and put in the new PID. All right, so all this PID is really different is it allows me to use an input to change my P, my D. And what this allows me to do is I need to make my microcontroller a little bit bigger. I'm going to add a logic node. Actually, I don't need to increase the size of this microcontroller yet. I don't need a radiator anymore. So let's make that the procedural. Let's make that a number input. And what that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to change my P. Oh, I just screwed up the microcontroller. But that's going to allow me to change my P value as I'm sitting with the engine running, which will make it much easier for me to tune in the PID. So let me see if I can find it. So I changed it to a green. Here it is, procedural right here. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to go back. I undid some of the work I did with the advanced PID, but it'll take me 2 seconds. So I'm quickly going to just rebuild that. Right there, and that goes there, and then I can delete that. Now the P is going to go to the proportional. I did procedural. It should have been proportional. Me trying to remember what it was called. Let me see. Proportional, okay. Let's update that microcontroller. All right, so now what we can do is we can take a keypad. We'll put the keypad right here. We'll get it. Okay, now we're going to take the logic node and we're going to connect it to the proportional right there. All right, now this is going to allow me to tune in my PID live while I'm running the engine. So I'm going to sit in the seat, start the engine. That should not have started. So let me see why it did. Okay. Let's see. Keypad goes to proportional. Let me see. Okay. Proportional goes to the P value. Okay, so I think this number is just too high. Let's put it 0 to 1. Okay. Let's just do that. And this hopefully shouldn't start. Okay, it doesn't start. The reason it doesn't start is the PID's not giving enough fuel. So let's start putting in some numbers here. So from one of my other builds, I know 0.18 is a good p-value. All right, let's increase it. Let's see. All right, what is it doing here? Okay, so it doesn't like that 0 number that I had in there. Let me see, it's P. Try 0.01 for now. PID tuning, you'll find it takes a lot of your time. Alright. See what is, make sure everything is connected still before I go do something else. Okay, that's good. Fuel, we have air. Let me make sure I didn't screw something up with, so I'm trying to think, the only thing I really changed, I did kind of the cardinal mistake of changing multiple things at once, because then it makes it harder to figure out what you changed. But, so 6 turns on the PID, that's fine. RPS is here. Numerical switch box goes there, that's fine. Proportional is going to read my p-value. This one here, I had it at 0.18. Let's go back to 0.18 and let's try it, see if it runs. Okay, let's just try starting it. Okay, so it's definitely was putting out too little of a number. So let me see what's up. This should be reading a 3.5 here. So let me try something here. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I will try it. Okay, so I might know what's up already. All right, so I think I know what's up. Let's go back to this clamp. I know I'm going to do, let me not do what let me actually do what I was going to do. Let's go 0. All right, so now I think I found where the issue is here. All right, so this is our throttle here, right? So when we start, the reset value is 0, right? So that's 0 RPS. 0 RPS isn't going to run an engine, right? So what I need to come out of here, I need to come out of this numerical switch box, I need a clamp. All right. So from this clamp, I need to have my minimum RPS that I want. Let's say it's 3. And I want my maximum RPS, which is 15. All right. So I'm going to take this numerical switch box here. I'm going to hook it to 315. Now I'm going to connect that to the set point. That's at 0. That's fine. Let's see if this runs the way I want it. Okay, so P is still connected. It is. Okay. Let's try this, see if I can get this to run. Now I should hit the starter and the engine should not start. Okay, engine doesn't start. Now let me put in a number for the p-value on the PID. 18 would be ugly. 0.18. Okay, good. See, it starts and dies, starts and dies, starts and dies. So let's start to increase this number here. Let's actually read, yep, so let's do 0.5. And it runs. And we idle. Okay, so that was where I forgot to put it in. So I'll actually go back. I'll do a Stormworks Basics Part 7, and I'll put in that. So that, let me show you what I screwed up. All right, so what I screwed up here was this right here, this clamp. This clamp was the problem. Now, you saw me do a bunch of things, which is probably confusing, but the issue was this. So let me tell you how this works again if you didn't watch those videos. When I press the 1 button on my keyboard, it works this up-down counter. Now, the up-down counter starts at 0. That was our problem, right? It would go from -8 will mean that I can do a maximum of -8 RPS backwards in reverse. 15 is the most I can do forwards. All right, so I have a bunch of things that spin it around here. You can watch Stormworks Basics showing how this allows me to use this one control to go both forwards and backwards like a real boat. But the issue was it was reading a 0. Well, a 0 is telling the engine don't give it any fuel. Well, that's not going to let the engine start. It's not going to let the engine idle. As I come through here to my numerical switch box, I clamp it so that my lowest RPM, my idle, is 3 RPS. My max is 15 RPS. So that allowed me to set an idle. All right. Now my P number, right, we just tested it out, was 0.5. So I'm going to leave it set up like this. Eventually, I'm going to put a constant number in and set the P so I don't have a keypad anymore. But let's go test this out. We want to make sure that engine doesn't stall at weird times. So remember, 0.5 worked for us. So let's put that in, 0.5. Let's start it up. All right, we're running. Let's watch our RPS. This needle shouldn't be dancing around. As you can see, it's dead stable. That's what we want. Perfect. All right, now let's start to increase the throttle. All right, we start to go. And we're doing 30 knots. Now, one of the reasons why we're getting more speed is that's a better PID number. So it's causing us to have less, you know, essentially it was going throttle on, throttle off, throttle on, throttle off. So I have a better PID number in there. That gave us a couple knots of speed because it's more accurate. So we've even improved the boat even more that way. So now one thing to notice is often you'll see we'll put stability systems in boats and Stormworks to make them function more like real boats. As you can see, I have no stability system in this because I use, you know, I kind of stood on the shoulder of giants and used real engineers numbers for beam, the width of the boat, and length. And I even made my boat a little bit longer for even more stability. I don't have a stability system on here, and as you can see, I can go full rudder, port starboard, and my boat's not tipping over. So let's do some quick testing here while we're at it. Let's go full wind, 100% wind. This is the worst you're going to get. As you can see, our boat's going to try to do a big wheelie because it doesn't weigh anything. All right, so that's why we need a stability system. So we're going to put that in eventually. All right. All right, so let's go back to the dock. Let's not drown here and shut off our max wind. All right, we'll recall our boat. All right, good. So we fixed that that idle issue here. So we had our idle issue up. Let's go over it really quick one more time. We clamped it so the minimum, our idle, is 3. Our maximum is 15. That's in there. That number of 0.5 works really well for us for the p-value, 0.5. I'm not even going to put in an I or a D. All right, not even going to bother. Maybe some point in the future I'll need it, I'll do it. But I don't need it right now. I don't really need this clamp, but I'm going to leave it in there in case I want to mess with it later. It's always helpful to have it in case I want to use it. All right, so let's update this. All right, so we've got that idle fixed. So let's do, let's do this before we call this a video. Let's quickly just connect all the electronics here. We're going to make it very simple. Just connect everything to the battery. Let's do a quick little battery test. Remember, we set up our alternator in the basics video for that microcontroller. It should be functioning well to charge our batteries. As you can see, these are our alternators here. As long as our alternators are connected through to the electric system, eventually the battery will charge. Now, I often, especially in my big ships, I'll put a bunch of complicated systems where you can disconnect the recharge function from the batteries. You do this for a number of real RP reasons, but you know, we won't worry about that right now. And then, so I need to take my data from the battery, make sure it's connected. It is. All right, so I'm going to take another dial. Remember, dials are our friends for figuring out problems and solutions. So let's put another dial in here. We don't really need a dial. We can look at electronics by looking at any panel, but I like to put a dial on. All right, so we have the battery hooked to a dial. Let's quickly spawn this in, and we'll check to make sure that our electrical system works. So now we can shut off infinite electricity. So we're getting to the point where we can start to, you know, utilize this boat in a career save by having, you know, a lot of the cheats turned off, like infinite electricity. And we never put on infinite fuel, or we never did. Turn on the start-stop. Start to advance the throttle. All right, good. So we are running. All right, so let's get going here. We're at 30 knots. Let's just head in a direction. Let's check our battery. Battery is showing 100% battery. All right, so our PIDs are automatically controlling our alternators to make sure our battery doesn't lose any charge. I can even get up and walk around and look at the real battery. As you can see, so we don't need huge batteries. You'll see people spamming a ton of big batteries. As long as you have a proper charging system, you can have a tiny little battery here and it runs everything. Now, you might get into an issue where if you had tons and tons and tons of lights, you're going to burn through the battery if your motors are off or you're sitting still without them revved up. So you might need those types of, accessory batteries for all your lights and whatnot. But right now, that's good. All right, so let's recall this. All right, and I'm going to save this as Stormworks Basics video number 3. And that way, as I publish these videos, I'm going to publish these workshop links. You can go along, and if you want to start there, you can. And it's only up to the point where I've left off. All right, so thank you for watching. Let's talk about what we're going into the next video. So we have a boat that functions. All right, so as you notice, when we hit the wind, we started having some stability issues because if we look at this boat, it weighs 2,000 mass, so say 4,000 pounds. Stormworks wind on 100% is pretty insane anyways, but we're going to put some functions in there that do a couple things. One, it's going to start to cut out the engines, or it's going to reduce the throttle automatically when we lift up out of the water. Because if you get these props out of the water, then it splashes down in, it's going to kick the boat up and do a backflip. So we don't want that, so we'll put in a system to prevent that. We'll also put in some fins for pitch stability to keep the boat so that the noses are coming up. There are really trim tabs in real boats that do this, but also for Stormworks, this will help us navigate those huge waves. All right, so that will be in the next video. Thanks for watching.